Take a deep breath, take the higher road. That's what they always say, as if they know the way. They won't take it from me. But don't ever doubt yourself, 'cause life ain't just a dream. You made your own, so kick and scream. The people will act with a never-ending force. You never had the chance, so what you waiting for? The day has come, my friend, 'cause this is war. It's time and this is war.
There is a growing sense of unease among Americans, a quiet knowing that something is deeply wrong with our healthcare system. It's not just about rising costs or long wait times. It's about the realization that the system we've been told to trust is no longer built to heal. It's built to profit. We are living in an age where protocols override people, where insurance companies dictate care, and where asking questions makes you a target. Behind the polished brochures and catchy hospital slogans lies a cold clinical reality. Patients are being harmed, not by accident, but by design. Families are losing loved ones not because of a lack of medicine, but because of a lack of humanity. Because somewhere along the way, we stopped asking, is this what's best for the patient? And started asking, what does the policy allow? That's why a docuseries like the one we are going to talk about today, Making a Killing, is so vital. It's a piercing light in a system built on shadows. And today we are going to focus on the final installment, Poisoned by Protocol, where we expose the mechanisms that continue to destroy lives under the guise of care. The rigid cancer protocols, the exploitation of the special needs community, and the quiet normalization of medical harm. This isn't just a documentary, it is a reckoning. And if you're brave enough to listen, it may just change the way that you see everything. You're listening to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Before we get started today, I do want to encourage our listeners, if you have questions or comments, or perhaps you want to share your own experiences with what you're seeing on the front lines of healthcare, you can now submit those to us directly by visiting our website at nursesoutloud.com. We would love to hear from you. We encourage all of you to engage in the battle and find your voice in this fight. But until you are able to do that, we will continue to be that voice for you. August 1st will mark the release of the third and final installment in a powerful docuseries. And I have to say, this one may be the most emotionally charged and revealing episode yet. Today, we are going to be joined by a fearless truth teller, Patty Myers, producer of the groundbreaking docuseries, Making a Killing. Patty fights for change within the healthcare industry. She shares how her late husband, Tony Myers, was poorly treated due to lack of care, malpractice, and restricted and ultimately deadly hospital protocols. Episode 3 is titled Poisoned by Protocol, and today we're going to dive deep into the rigid, often deadly systems that govern our healthcare, specifically in the realms of cancer care, special needs patients, and the overarching dysfunction that affects us all. If you've ever felt that medicine today is more about managing disease than healing people, this conversation is for you. Patty, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate the time to share as much as I can about this topic, for sure.
Absolutely. And I've met you several times. You know, we have I've spoken at your event that you did in Orlando, which is just about a little over a year ago now. Hard to believe.
Right.
But, you know, so we've connected several times, and, you know, your courage and your bravery is just so appreciated after everything that you've been through. And I know actually that many of my listeners have been following this docuseries closely. So you've really managed to capture what so many families have felt, but really can't put into words, or they don't have the voice to be able to share that. But I know, now that you're getting ready to release this final episode, if you want to just take a moment just to share, you know, with my listeners how your story began.
Well, unfortunately, it began when I dropped him off. I call it the death chamber. But I dropped him off in the hospital August of 2021. and he never came out alive. Um, and what I witnessed, he was there almost 4 weeks, and I was able to get in. Most families weren't able to get in, but I made a big ruckus and I was able to get in after 5 days. And what I witnessed during that time period, there are no words. Like, I just, the ways people's attitudes, the refusal of treatment, um, compassion, it was shocking. But at the same time, I was trying to fight for his life. Um, so I was very busy trying to learn this stuff so quickly. Um, but my husband and we have a son with autism. He's 24, and we have been advocates for years. We have helped families voluntarily for years. And so he was in the hospital. He emailed the governor, asked, he's seeing body bags pass his room. Um, he emailed the news media, and he called ACA, Agencies for Healthcare Administration, and no one responded. And I remember I texted him right back after he said, I called ACA, be on the lookout. And I said, this is crazy. You're supposed to be in the hospital just trying to get better, not advocating for yourself. I mean, I remember thinking, this is crazy. But at the end, when it becomes ice, water, and food are hard to come by, that's a problem, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but and I say treat in quotes, they treated him as if he wasn't going to make it. They talked to him and literally told him he wasn't going to make it.
Oh.
I mean, I just have never seen such things ever.
It was a different time, that's for sure. I mean, even as
Yeah,
a nurse, I could see that this was just something completely different. We had never been
yeah,
in this realm before, and none of it felt right. None of it felt
yeah.
right.
And there was only, I mean, every day, pretty much almost every day was a new nurse, a new infectious disease, a new lung guy, a new
Mhm.
intensivist, all that kind of stuff. Um, Literally, I counted on one hand out of almost 4 weeks of people, multiple people. Um, there was less than five that actually were either positive or told me to just bring in the meds that I wanted to bring in. I mean, everybody else was gloom and doom, and you're never going to make it out of here alive. I mean, it was just saturated with that. And I just think that's really unfortunate because even I met with the CEOs of the hospital system here, the CEO and COO, and I told his story by his text only, and I put some pictures in there. Um, and I said it's unfortunate because even if you thought he was going to die, you were horrible with him.
Yeah.
When I called them one day. He said he was crying and he said there's been 5 body bags past my room today. I can't do this, Patty. So I called, and I mean, I'm nice. I don't know if you hear my voice, but I really try. I can be firm,
Yeah.
but I really try to go about it the nice way. So I called the nurse and said, my husband just said he saw 5 body bags pass his room. Can you please close the blinds? And literally she's like, we're busy, and then
Oh
slam
my
the phone
gosh.
down. And I mean, I was in the middle of it. Even when that
Mm.
happened, I was like, what in the world? And then I remember it was like the last week he was alive, and they took me this other route, which took a lot longer to get to him in the ICU. And I remember crying, and I knew that day, I was like, this is a mess.
Mm.
This is not normal. They're not caring for my husband. They don't care about him. They're trying to kill him. And I'm the most least drama person. I advocate, don't get me wrong,
Right.
but I don't look for things. I'm on the opposite. I'm always gracious, and I'm like, well, maybe this and maybe that. So this time I remember going, wow. And what was interesting is, a side note, all the patients there look the same. They
Yeah.
were a middle-aged man, 40
Yes.
to 60s.
Yes.
kind of a stocky build. I mean, I was like, everybody looks the same. I remember, like, I'm a behavior analyst, so I'm always taking in language and the environment, and I process it later. But I remember thinking, that's strange.
You're not wrong. I noticed the same thing as a nurse. I was like, look at these patients because the reason it struck me at first was I was like, these are like young, I mean, young, like between, like you said,
Right.
30 and 60,
Yeah.
healthy,
Yeah.
well-built, strong men. And
Yeah.
that's what we're seeing the majority, not to say we didn't have other patients, but the majority of our patients were exactly as you described. And I was thinking that as well. I was like, this seems targeted.
Yeah. It was very, and like I said, I came from a uh green, I'm just observing. I didn't really have any agenda. I didn't go in there and think the doctors and nurses hate my husband or anything like that.
Yeah.
And even when they did crazy stuff, I thought, "Well, that's so weird." I mean, it just
And and I just want to say really quickly about that. And because I say all the time, I speak very, very openly about what's happening in our hospitals, and that is all by design. But I don't say these things to say that your doctors and nurses in your local hospitals are doing intentionally bringing harm to
right.
people. I don't think that is the case at all. I know I was a nurse in the system and during COVID, and I know all of the nurses and myself included in the beginning, we all really thought we were doing the best that we can. But it's not that they are going in there thinking that they are intentionally causing harm. It's that they're following protocols that are designed to
Hmm.
cause harm from higher up, but they just think that they're doing the best that they can because they
Right.
unfortunately trust the system.
Right. It's so true. It's a system. And at the end, they kept, it could have been before day 5, but at least day 5, they were hard and strong about the ventilator. And
Yeah.
he was only on 30% high flow, you know,
Mhm. So you had
and they
room to
were like,
run.
ventilator every day, every day.
Yeah.
And so at the end, the ICU doctor came to me and he was like, I'm going to full throttle tell this patient and his wife he needs the ventilator. So that was his whole purpose.
Mhm.
And in that conversation, he literally said, basically I asked for ivermectin again and different things. And then he said, listen, I'm doing what the CDC, the FDA, and this hospital has told me to do,
Yep.
was the exact quote. And I looked at him and I said, sir, I need you, his doctor, to pull out all the stops. I said, would you do this for your wife? And he said, yep. And he had no emotions.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not true. You would do anything and everything. You wouldn't just say the hospital, the FDA, and
Yep.
the
Yeah, that's all we
CDC.
heard was its protocol. They could never give any. I
Yeah,
would ask all the time, Patty, I would question, but why are we doing this? It makes no sense. What's the clinical
right.
rationale? And they would just say, well, that's protocol. And that's one of the main reasons why I left. But what we saw was financial incentives
Money, yep,
driving care. That's
yep,
why they were pushing the ventilators because they would get an astronomical amount of money to place a
yep.
patient on a ventilator. And if we kept them on a ventilator for 96 hours or more, they got even more money.
Mm, wow. Yeah, it was like I said, I came in green, but I saw
Yeah.
it firsthand. The decisions that were made, like after he got ivermectin and he did his quick story is he was about to be ventilated, 100% high flow, couldn't sit up, couldn't talk, couldn't eat. And then I got ivermectin approved like a miracle. And literally within hours, he was better. And then within 3 days, he was off the high flow. He was only on 6 liters of oxygen. And then when he pushed the button in the middle of the night because he was having trouble breathing, not crazy, but just, help me out a little bit. No one was there. They were at lunch at 3 in the morning. And they apologized to me and said, I'm so sorry we weren't there. And then he had to start screaming for people. And then they pushed him to ICU and they stopped the ivermectin. And every day we asked for it. And we said that's the only thing that helped him majorly, not little bit, like major. And they said he shouldn't have got it. It was not in the protocol. And we heard that over and over again. So it's almost like they got mad that somehow he got that. And I can't, I wish I could prove that maybe their incentive was a little less because he got something out of the protocol. I don't
That's
know.
correct. That is right, Patty, because if
Yeah.
the protocols had to be oh, I can't think of the name for the Medicare, but you had to follow the protocol specifically, to the letter in order to
Mhm.
get it, or you would lose the whole bonus.
That's what I felt like. And again, I'm just a wife discernment here,
Hmm.
but that's what it felt like at the time. They were very mad he got it, even though the patient made, they even said, like, basically the day before the ivermectin, he texted me and they told him, "You're not going to make it. We've done all the COVID meds." And then when I got the ivermectin 3 days later, that day when he was only on 6 liters of oxygen, he told me they came in and they told him he's going home in a day or two. They want to get him down to 3 liters at least. And I said, "Oh, wow, like, did they jump for joy?" I remember saying something like that. And he's like, "No, they just casually walked in." I was like, "That makes no sense." I remember that was a moment like, aren't they excited for their patient doing so well? No, and so it's like when they stopped ivermectin, it's like they didn't really care about Tony. They
Right.
they really just cared about the bottom line. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Right? So he got something that, was going to get them less money. I don't know, but that's how I felt. Because that makes no sense when, like I work with kids with disabilities. Let's say someone doesn't speak, and my colleague over here, she just does a funny song and dance, and they start speaking sentences.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't think the song and dance is a great protocol, let's just say. But guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to be singing and dancing to get that kid to talk again. And I'm going to be
Exactly.
so excited he's talking, you
Exactly.
know,
Yeah, and
because
there's
that's what I
more than
care
one way to
about.
skin a cat, right? I mean, there are different things
Yeah,
that can be done, and and
right,
we talk a lot about how healthcare is not one size fits all. It is very
right.
individualized, and that's why I have such a problem with protocol driven
Mm-hmm.
healthcare. But
Right,
let's take a moment just to recap for my audience. Just so episode one focused really on hospital protocols during COVID.
right,
And then episode two is really exposing those financial incentives that
right,
were being put out there. And then episode three now that is going to be coming out really tackles what many consider to be the most complex and heartbreaking aspects of our system: cancer, special needs care, and just overall patient neglect. Is that right?
right, right.
Let's bring that
I
now,
wanted to
Kathy.
do just an episode clearly on cancer,
Yes.
because Tony's brother was diagnosed with stage 4 just a few months after he died. And when I saw the protocols for that, I was just like
Yeah.
astounded with what was happening with him. And it was very similar to Tony.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just felt like I needed to say something with that. And obviously my world is special needs. So I always want to talk about that.
Well, and let's start with the cancer. I'd love that you're doing that and shining a light on that because, listen, cancer is $1 billion industry. It
Mm,
is $1 billion industry. And there is this overwhelming push for the trifecta, right? Chemo,
right,
radiation, and surgery. That is the standard of care in this country. And that's it. They won't hear anything about anything else. But can you talk just a
right.
little bit about how these protocols are enforced and what happens when patients or families maybe want to explore alternatives like ivermectin or fenbendazole or any of these other more natural alternative treatments for cancer?
Yeah, well, we'll dig in a little bit deeper, but we talk about, when people get the diagnosis, right? It
Mhm.
is a business,
Yeah.
right? So someone to have stage 0 cancer, it's a business, right? So let's give you some fear so you will get into the system and the business model.
Yeah.
So I think we talk about the fear, we talk about the money, obviously, because that's what we talk about in all our episodes, how the money impacts the decisions of these, I'll say, people.
Yeah. Right.
like to say, because I mean, there's some really good doctors and nurses out there
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
So I don't want to pigeonhole everybody, but we really want to talk about uh, like there's other ways because a lot of these doctors that are in that system will bully you.
Yes, they
And I
will. They'll
saw that with
gaslight
my
you. They'll bully
brother-in-law.
you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the one guy says to him, "Well, would you like to know your prognosis?" What kind of
Mhm.
First of all, he's not God. And what
Right.
kind of a question to tell a patient when you just told them, hey, you have stage 4 cancer? Would you like to know when you're dying?
Yeah.
And the
Exactly.
patient, he was like, well, I guess so. I mean, how do you answer that even? He's like, you got 2 years. I mean, just very dismissive and
Mhm.
the compassion. That's what I'm noticing across the board. It's just like there was another patient. She walked in the room and the lady looks at her chart, puts it down. She goes, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is
It's like
going
it's missing.
on?
It's gone. It's gone. The compassion is just
Yeah.
gone from healthcare. And that's, I work in hospice now and I love it because I'm able,
Mm,
to have that and express myself in a more compassionate way with patients and their
yeah.
families. Because the system, the way that it's designed, really doesn't allow nurses to do that anymore. And it's
Mm,
sad, and it's really, it causes a lot of moral injury for
right.
for nurses.
Right. And I saw that, like I said, even with the couple that were really amazing. In fact, a day before the ventilator, the doctor and the nurse came in and they had the chest x-ray machine in there. I don't know what you call it, but I can see the scan. And
Mhm.
he's telling me, he's like, look at this. This looks better actually. It's not a lot, but look at this. And I said, tell him, tell the
Right.
patient because all he's seeing is gloom and doom, and they're telling him he's not going to make it. So he looked at him. He said, look, yes, I mean, we got some work to do, and it's going to be a long haul, but this is the day before the ventilator, you
Wow.
know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, and especially someone that's having trouble breathing.
Right. Because their anxiety is already
Yes. I
going to
mean,
be through the roof because
and
they
I
can't
mean,
breathe.
I don't claim to be a doctor, a nurse, or anything of the sort. Not at all. I am just a wife that saw my husband. And when I look back on a lot of the things, when I was like, okay, Tony, you got to move, you got to do this, I had no clue what I was doing, but I was on track, which is
Hmm.
crazy. But
Yeah.
they made you feel crazy. They asked me all the time, "Are you in the medical field?" with just like an attitude.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And that just really, most people it might quiet them up, but that just riled me up, because I thought, well, who are you? I'm his wife. Like, like we're a
Right.
team here.
You're more invested in his care and his,
Yeah. And knowing
outcomes than they
him.
are. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just really, going back to kind of the why, when he was trying to fight for his life, and then I saw a video that I put in my episode 2 of this guy, Ray. And when I saw his video right after my husband died, that second I said, I have to stand against this. There's something, whatever I witnessed there, that something's got to be done because that's not normal. That's not, I don't care, pandemic, plandemic, whatever it was,
Right.
because you got all those excuses. Well, we didn't know, or and but even more so kitchen sink, even more so you should try some other things, but it was not allowed. And
No,
the
and they
patient
stopped,
rights,
yeah, and they
yeah,
stopped things like steroids or ibuprofen even.
yes,
Like they told us
yeah,
ibuprofen was contraindicated in COVID patients. I had never heard anything so
wow,
absurd in my nearly 30 years in healthcare. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, there's no evidence that it causes any type of harm or anything like that. So why would we just basically just leave them there to
that's
die
what it
without doing
was.
anything to mitigate the damage? That was the problem that I couldn't understand. Viruses are they, we get viruses all the time. It's a respiratory virus,
Hmm.
but we always mitigate the damage, and that didn't happen here.
Right. And right after, when they stopped the ivermectin, they stopped the breathing treatments. And so he's texting me and he said, they stopped the breathing treatments. He was like, that's the only thing that's really helping me right now. So I called the infectious disease guy. I'm like, why did you stop the breathing treatments? He's like, well. And I said, are you listening to the patient? He's saying it's the only thing that's really helping him. I guess we'll start again. And the
Yeah.
respiratory person came in. She goes, I don't know why they stopped it. And again, I just felt as a wife, they were mad that he got the ivermectin and they were like, we're done.
So the
Felt like,
reason they started doing that, they actually stopped. That was like a big thing where they stopped the nebulizer treatments for all of these patients that were in distress. And the reason that they did that was because when you would nebulize something, if they had the virus, it would disseminate the virus and aerosolize it into
mm,
the air. And that was their rationale. But I'm like, but this makes no
this is like
sense.
3 weeks later. Like
Right. Well,
there's
yeah, number one, he's not
or maybe
replicating
4 weeks.
anymore.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
number two, listen, we've already been exposed to everything at this
Mm-hmm.
point. That's
Mm-hmm.
the same reason and the same rationale that they had for early
Wow.
intubation, if you remember.
I
They
do,
were
yeah.
pushing for ventilation because not because the patient was even in distress, but because of the fact that it would when you placed on a ventilator, it's a closed loop system, and then the
Right.
virus is no longer disseminated in the air. So, oh well, we're doing this to protect the nurses. Well, we've already been exposed to everything, and we're just fine. You don't. This
Mm,
is not something you do to patients.
mm. It's just, and it's still happening today, Kimberly.
It
I mean,
is.
I get emails weekly that the one guy, is stage 2 kidney failure. This was like 3 months ago. And the wife told him, I don't know if she had COVID. I didn't get that far with her, but she told him he can't have this, he has this. He got remdesivir, he died.
Oh, of
Like
course, yeah.
so it's just quieter, but they're still pushing that high expensive medication that was mandated
Mhm.
that they probably have stockpiles of. I don't know, but we have to stand up. And I say that in episode 1, it's not just about COVID, it's about protocols, all these different protocols and this rigidness and just like lack of compassion. And the only way we can change it is when we all stand up and say, we're not doing it. Like I'm not going to the hospital unless I'm passed out in a car accident
Mhm.
and they send me there without my consent. I am not stepping foot in there,
I'm
you
I'm
know?
right there with you. I say that all the time. I'm like, I'd have to be like knocked out cold and dragged in because I'm not
Right.
going to a hospital. I mean, for any reason whatsoever, I'm not
And
going.
my biggest thing, it's not, I mean, I used to say I'm afraid they'll kill me, but it's not really that anymore. It's like I don't want to give 1 cent to that system.
Right.
That's really kind of where I'm at. It's like if we all, there is, I'm in Orlando here, and there is between the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, there is so much ERs and urgent cares. And I mean, it's like, is that many people sick that we need one on
Mhm.
every corner? I
Right,
mean,
exactly.
that should say something right there, because those buildings are not cheap.
No, no, they're not. And I think that's really why it's so important for more people, to come out and start creating these networks and alternatives to the system, like what we're building with Remnant Healthcare. And other people are doing the same. And the more people that will break away from this system, it is going to hold them accountable to a certain degree because right
Right,
now there's no other options.
right,
That's what people that they have to go there. They don't have anywhere else to go. But the more relevant we become in the
right.
alternative space, then it's really going to hold their feet to the fire and they have no choice but to raise their standards because the reality of it is that they're meeting the standard of care in this country. But the reality is that the standard of care is so disgustingly low.
It is. It is. It's so true. I mean, money, I say this a lot, money got us in the mess,
Hmm.
and money's the only way out of the mess. So if you hit them in the pocketbook, they're going to make changes, you
Exactly.
know?
It's the only
Um,
way.
yeah, I mean, just I think the greed and what I saw with the admin and like I said, the CEO, COO, wow. I mean, it's when someone goes to you and has a meeting and and their husband died at your hospital I mean, if you can't have compassion then,
Right.
I mean, it just really showed. And these are the decision makers. These were the people telling them the protocol, you know? Um,
Yeah. Unfortunately, the people making the decisions have very little
right.
compassion. They're not at the bedside. They're not with patients. They don't see
Exactly.
patients. They don't work with patients.
Yeah.
It's really sad. But, I mean, I've seen it firsthand as far as like the protocols and the treatments, as a nurse, it's infuriating to watch
Mm,
patients being rushed into these different types of treatments without any type of full understanding of the long-term consequences.
mm,
No, not being given options of alternatives. And there's just no informed consent. But like you mentioned earlier, it's the fear mongering. When you
mm,
tell a patient that they have cancer, there
mm.
is that psychological paralysis that occurs. And you're like, even those of us who are awake and aware and know better, we're
Right.
still going to be like, oh my God, I have cancer. Maybe I really do need to listen to the doctors. Because what if I have it wrong?
Right.
You know?
Right. And that's what I really hope this episode is so important. Like the other episodes I think were good as well, and I want everybody to look at those, but because it tells the stories of what happened, but this episode, and we will have I think two people that are going to be sharing their medical stories. Um, but the big thing is like, what other things can you do, now? Let's not wait till a doctor says you have XYZ. And even if they say that to you, what can you do? So I
Exactly.
hope that we share some tangibles that people can feel less fearful if they are worried that they'll be having cancer, or even the special needs. We talk about the different protocols and discrimination and things like that too. So
Yeah. Well, I'm up against a break, but when we come back, I really want to dig into the special needs aspect of it as well.
sounds good.
America Out Loud Talk Radio plays on the iHeartRadio network. You can also listen on our media player from any web browser, anywhere in the world. We have the best in class apps available on Apple, Android, or Alexa 24/7. Great Talk Radio. All of our shows go to podcast the following day. You can hear them on apps such as Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeart Podcasts, and many more. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show on Apple Podcasts for me. Don't forget to check out our online store at americaoutloud.shop, where you can find all of the products that we represent on our network at a discounted rate, including an incredible line of products for chemical-free body. Unlike the majority of supplements you'll find on the market today, with chemical-free body, you won't have to worry about harmful ingredients, binders, fillers, or flow agents. Their ultra-safe breakthrough nanosilver technology destroys pathogens, balances the microbiome, and boosts immunity. All of these products are proudly made in the USA and are backed by an unheard of double your money back guarantee. I've made a twice daily Green 85 drink part of my routine, which has led to a decrease in belly bloat and an increase in my energy throughout the day. Use promo code OUTLOUD to save 20% off the Healthy Gut Bundle. I'll catch you on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Is your gut a mess? 2/3 of Americans suffer because of gastrointestinal issues, and I was one of them. That is why we created a 3-step, doctor-formulated, completely natural gut reboot system that you can do at home in just minutes a day. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/outloud today. Get the Malcolm Healthy Gut Bundle. Reboot your gut and your energy, and save 20% on your first order.
Your heart is the most crucial muscle in your body. Are you doing enough to keep it strong? Introducing the Wellness Company's Breakthrough Healthy Heart Formula, designed by Dr. Peter McCullough, now upgraded with taurine. This daily supplement supports cardiovascular health and works to protect cells against oxidative stress. Packed with D-ribose to boost heart function, taurine to help maintain heart and muscular health, coenzyme Q10 and selenium citrate to help reduce risk of cardiac disease, and a vitamin B complex with L-carnitine for energy and muscle support. Endorsed by the Wellness Company's Chief Medical Board, this formula is your ally for heart health. Reclaim your health now at twc.health/outloud and use code OUTLOUD for 20% off your first order plus free shipping.
You wouldn't go a day without brushing your teeth or washing your hands. What about washing your nose? I mean, your nose does filter the air you breathe, air loaded with bacteria, viruses, and irritants. Make nasal hygiene part of your routine with Clear. No messy bottles to fill, no drowning sensation. Clear is a natural drug-free saline with the added benefit of xylitol, which blocks bacterial and viral adhesion. Available in stores and online at clear.com. That is XLEAR.com.
Have you been looking for a healthy snack for on the go, but all the energy and protein bars are just too sweet and full of sugar, preservatives, and mystery ingredients? Well, not all energy bars are soft and sugary. Bear Bars are a crunchy, savory bar made from just 6 simple, natural ingredients. They're plant-based, organic, packed with protein and nutrients, and are low-temp dried for a unique crunch. Most energy bars are based on chocolate or fruit and are held together with syrups and sweeteners, but Bear Bars are a delicious combination of veggies, nuts, and seeds. They're a perfect fast snack for hikes, workouts, and busy moms and dads. To learn more, just visit bearbar.com/outloud and get the exclusive discount just for America Out Loud listeners. That's BEARBAR.com/outloud.
Well, did you see Google quietly updated its AI principles, removing its pledge not to use AI for weapons or surveillance, a promise they agreed to in 2018? Well, the American people have seen Google's track record, prompting the question, is Google an untrustworthy player in the AI race? Now is our time, my fellow Americans. AmericaOutloud.news. Liberty and justice for all.
Welcome back to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Wherever you're listening from today and whatever you're doing, I thank you for giving me the gift of your time. Be sure to make AmericaOutloud.news your daily stop for all the latest news and happenings. We all must do our part and share the stories, the articles, the podcasts, and videos so we can help secure America's future. If you're just joining us, I've been talking with Patty Myers, advocate and producer of the groundbreaking docuseries, Making a Killing. Let's jump right back in. Patty, thanks again for being here with me today.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Now, before the break, we talked a little bit about the Poison by Protocol is the episode 3 of the docuseries Making a Killing. We talked a little bit about the cancer protocols, the very, very rigid cancer protocols. But I really want to dive into the special needs aspect of it as well. It seems like there are patients that are being discarded by design. And I think that's one of the most disturbing parts, even of watching your episode, bringing this to light. But you're covering cases where these individuals are dismissed, denied care, or even targeted with unethical decisions. And we can look no further than Gray Shara is just one heartbreaking example of this.
Yeah.
The forced DNRs, the lack of advocacy, wrongful death. How much more of that have you seen in the special needs adults?
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, my husband and I have advocated and helped, parents with IEPs or different things. It's about money too.
Yeah.
It's like, so let's clump them over in portables away from everybody,
Yeah.
to save $1. I think that's part of it, honestly. I went to an IEP meeting once and brought a court reporter because I wanted to really
Good
make
for
a
you.
point. And they were
Mhm.
like, what in the world? And I
Mhm.
said, you're not going to treat parents like this. And some of the stuff was piddly, but I brought it all up because I'm like, you're not going to do this, So, I think the biggest things I see is really the discrimination and isolation. So, they're not with their typical peers. And I think that's, I'm not saying like just jump in, right? You have to have a plan of safety and stuff for certain students. But I think that just the way they're talked to, their expectations are low, all that kind of stuff is just not okay. And that's part of a protocol as well, right? Oh, you have autism. Oh, you go over here,
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of looking at Johnny and looking at him and look at his needs and where would he be placed, the best. So Sometimes they just need a little support. And so they were not going to pay for that. So again, let's clump them with the portable kids, I call them. But
Mhm.
so that's kind of what I've seen firsthand. And, I created a couple programs of school and another nonprofit to do that better, and look at individuals as individuals and help them work on their independent skills, in all kinds of different ways. So, but
I
it's
think that's a
money.
good, I would think people, they would be better served with, maybe trying to better integrate them with their, typical peers
Yes,
and, having them integrate together. Like, I mean, we're all diverse, right? Even
right.
whatever, who people are considered typical. Listen, we're all
Exactly.
quirky as hell. I mean,
Yeah,
I might
exactly.
be considered typical, but I am quirky as hell. So I think, what's normal anyway, but I really think that just taking people and integrating and accepting the diversity of all of these different people and having, God forbid, humanity helping humanity
Exactly.
and like learning from each other because I'm certain there is so much that we can learn from them as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's the awareness is still a big piece that I'm always working on. Because if you don't have it in your life, it is a little scary and
Mm.
uncomfortable,
Yeah.
But I think once you meet these people and they're so valuable, and sometimes I just see people the way they talk or how they talk to them. I don't, see that they're thinking the same way possibly, and that hurts my
Mhm.
heart as a
Right.
mother and just as a person that's helping all kinds of people with disabilities. So,
Right. And I think, whether, and we've talked a little bit about each of these, but whether we're talking about cancer, COVID, special needs, it seems like the common denominator and the common theme here is the same. It's
hmm,
protocol. It's
yep,
protocol over people. How
yep.
do you think, how did we get here?
I honestly, and I'm doing all this, and I'm still in shock.
Hmm.
I'm just being honest with you. I relive what happened with him daily in different degrees. Um, and I know what I saw, and I know what I heard, but it's still shocking that people would be that cruel. Um, someone's calling and saying, like, there's body bags passing the room. Why would they? I'm busy, hang up the phone. Like, what in the world? Like,
Right.
like, and I get the stress level. I get it. I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm not in that world. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
I don't care how
General.
stressful it is. I would never talk to somebody or treat somebody like
I
that.
can't
Never.
imagine.
Never.
Okay, ma'am, I'll get to it. I
Mm.
don't know.
Yeah.
But
Especially if you're being nice on your end, because I mean, I'm
that's
so,
what I'm saying. I
and you kind of
really,
get the energy you put out. So I mean, I've
yeah,
had people snap at me and they might get that right back. But I mean, it's,
right,
I would never lead with that ever, especially
right.
when we're talking about patient care or dealing with a family member. I can't
Well, I
even
knew I was walking the line
imagine.
because one time, the day I got him the ivermectin, it had been 5 days I'd been trying and 10 days in the hospital. And that day I forgot to talk to the doctor. Something was going on. And then I told the nurse, oh, I need the doctor to call me. What do you need?
Mhm.
I finally tell her and she rolls her eyes. She's like, she's not going to order it. And I just got real close to her, real nice though. And I just said, listen, I'm letting you know he will be getting it today.
Mhm.
And she's like, you need to calm down. And I was literally, this is my volume and everything,
Yeah.
even my tone, honestly.
Yeah.
And she said, you need to calm down. If you don't calm down, you won't be allowed up here again. I said, oh no. And we're not doing that either.
Yeah.
It's
So
just
they're
like,
gaslighting you and they're
oh
trying to
my
get a
goodness.
reaction. What they're trying to do is push you to a point where you're reacting and then like, see, get her out of here. She's
Right,
crazy, get
right.
security, get her out of here. That's what they're doing. And I saw that happening over and over
And it
again.
worked. Yeah, they got people out of there,
Oh,
So
I don't
I
doubt
was
it. Yeah.
always toting a line of advocating for him, but not getting kicked out. I was feeling like
Mhm.
I was 5 seconds from that.
Yeah.
So it was hard to manage that, to be honest, but once they vented him that day, that's the one time I was a little crazy, I have to say. I just really yelled at the ICU doctor. I said, "Are you happy? You got what you wanted? You've been trying it for weeks." I mean, I just went, "Oh." And then later I did apologize. I said, "That's not the person I am." And, but I really was like, I'd had enough of them pressuring, and here he is, a hot mess. Like he's just not going to make it, you know? Um, and it's just, I think when they're not showing, because anytime I've gone to the nurse or the doc, yeah, anything, like I've had a couple surgeries, people are like, "How are you?" Like, and there wasn't that. Other
No.
than that handful, like I was saying. It was pretty much they looked at the numbers, they wrote something down, they left. There was not a lot of, "How are you doing?" "What can I
Well,
get you?"
they really started to try to dehumanize people during
Yes.
COVID. And I
Yeah.
really felt that at a strong level. And I thought, I still say, and I've said this so many times, that if we as nurses had stopped the moment that they told us that our patients could not have an advocate at their side, we should have said, absolutely not. And we could have stopped so much of this. But what they
Yeah.
did was they dehumanized the patient in the bed. They didn't even want us in the rooms with I'm a critical care nurse, right? I mean, I need to be up close and personal with my patients. But what are they doing is they are pulling IV pumps out of the room
Out
and
the
putting them
room. Yeah.
in the hallway.
Yeah, that's what they did with him. And even at the beginning, that's what they did when they vented him. Everything was outside. I think they only came in for like blood or chest x-ray. No one really came in his room. They
And the
just stood
doctors never went
outside.
in. I can tell you
No.
that. The doctors we couldn't listen. We couldn't even get the doctors on our floor during COVID. And they would say the
Wow.
reason they would give is, oh, we're trying to preserve the PPE for the nurses. I'm like, you scared as hell. That's why you ain't coming
That's
up here.
it. That's it. Wow.
But
Wow.
I would go in, listen, I would go into COVID never scared me. It never scared me. I would go into my patients' rooms and I would stay in there for sometimes 20 minutes, an hour. I would do all of my interventions, whatever I would have to do. Sometimes I would sit in the room and do my charting in there just because of being present with my patients.
Right.
Many of them are sedated and on a ventilator and whatever, but I always would go in and talk to them because they could hear
Mm.
you. They could hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a really big thing. And nobody was, it's like they were trying to um, discourage this type of actual patient care. They're like, get in and get out. That's it.
It was very, what's the word, like not clinical. I can't think of the word, but like
Like
just walk
sterile.
them sterile. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the it felt like that. Like even when I got in there the first day, he said, "Hardly anybody comes in here." He's like,
Hmm.
"I'm so lonely." And I was like, "What? They don't come in?"
Yeah. And that's the
And
isolation. That is
yeah.
so by design.
Mm,
That is the isolation. And what happens when we isolate people and people have that isolation, their immune system actually takes a hit from the
that's
isolation.
true.
It
Yeah.
was so it was really all by design, very calculated.
Mm, yeah. I mean, I still go back, and it's hard to remember what I didn't know then, you
Right.
know? But I still go back, and I just did it. My kids' birthdays were this past weekend. So when that happens, it kind of bubbles up again.
Mhm.
And I had one of those moments, why didn't I do this and why didn't I do that? But I did do the best that I could in the moment with the information that I knew. But I felt like he was getting worse and I jumped up, but I was never caught up. And
Right.
I think even if I was caught up, he was like a hostage in there.
Yes. He
Um,
literally was. And they
yeah.
were, even when people wanted to leave AMA or
Mm,
against medical advice, the other thing that they'll do, and they send the nurses in there to tell you this lie. Oh, if you leave against medical advice, your insurance is not going to pay for this and you're
they
going to get
said
stuck
that
with
to
the
us.
bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not true.
Me too, I know. Well, the other lady, and again, I know this is not true because he was on just maybe 10% high flow. He had just gotten there, and my instinct said, I got to get him out, even though I didn't know what I was doing. And I said, I need to get him out. I'm going to do hospice. I thought, I'll say anything.
Yeah.
And she said, honey, he won't even make it down the hallway. Now, I know that's not true that with
Right.
the information, but I didn't know. So
Right.
I remember crying, like, what do I do? But I know I need to get him out of here. And I was right.
Yeah.
Daggone it.
But
And
you know
so,
what? You did everything that you could, and you're still doing the work. I mean, you're still doing the work, and unfortunately, you weren't able to save Tony, but you have likely saved countless lives with your advocacy, and you're just bringing this type of awareness. We talked a little bit about the event that you put on last year. Um,
we can't forget.
we can't forget. Yes, exactly. And it was so beautifully done. And you had the faces of so many of these people who died. And it's a
Yeah,
war. I mean, it's an absolute, we're at war. I don't care what
we
anybody
are
says.
big
But the
time.
way that you so beautifully showcased, I just recently shared that memory. So it's really kind of fresh in my mind.
Right.
Um, how you showcased like over 600 families,
Mm-hmm.
the loved ones and it was just so beautifully done. But to see that, it's so heartbreaking
It
because it
is.
wasn't your case was not an isolated incident. I've met hundreds, thousands of families who have lost loved ones to
Mm-hmm.
these deadly protocols. And as you said earlier, it's still happening.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think that's part of why I keep doing this is that I don't want that to just be a waste and like, okay, you know, that's old news.
Mhm.
Um, even because it's still happening, even more so. But I do, if this saves one life, it's worth it. And I know my husband would want me to do this. If it was the opposite, he would be standing up and fighting. Um, and like I said, not just COVID, but just protocols in general, and just
Yeah.
giving people information so they're more knowledgeable before they get sick. And maybe they'll have a better outcome than Tony did.
Absolutely. But yeah, we talk about it is like is the evolution of this what used to be evidence-based medicine is now, warped
Mhm.
into protocol-driven care. And
Right.
it's just as if we've kind of stripped critical thinking and we've replaced it with checklist. Check a box,
Yes.
check a box. And anytime you try to question that, you're labeled as difficult or, I've probably been labeled as worse than difficult. I'm
Well,
certain
the
of that.
insurance drives it,
Yeah.
right? The insurance is
Yes.
the payer,
Yep.
and they're the ones calling the shots. Um, and and for COVID, the government called the shots. I remember telling the ICU guy, I said, when has the government been allowed to say what treatment my husband is going to get
Exactly.
or not get? I remember just thinking, like, why are we not able to talk, you and I? I used to be able to talk to my doctor and say, what about this? What about that? There's no such thing anymore, you
No,
know,
no.
at
You-
least with the system
mhm.
people that we're talking about.
Yeah,
So,
you couldn't. As soon as you would mention the word ivermectin, they would roll their eyes at
oh,
you. You get
yes,
labeled a conspiracy theorist, and oh, you're
yes,
one of them. And
yes.
they just kind of, scoff at you and laugh at you. Meanwhile, I'm over here treating people in my community with ivermectin. We're having
Hmm.
incredible success. Everybody's fine and getting better. And
Hmm.
all of the people that were in the hospital, because when you think about it, nobody died at home. They all
Exactly.
died in the hospitals. And that's been the
Exactly.
biggest thing I have been hammering home for 4 years, 5 years almost. They only died in the hospitals.
Yeah,
Why is that?
exactly.
Because they were killing them.
That's the science based
Yeah.
for data, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just look at like just use our brains. That's how I feel,
Yeah.
you
Do
know.
you feel like there's still time to reclaim medicine, or do you think it's just gone too far? Personally, I think it's gone too far.
Hmm. Well, I think it can be reclaimed by people like you,
Yeah.
right? So I think all these doctors and nurses that are doing the right things, that are talking with their patients about their care, I think if we have more of those, we can make this different, right? And if you
Absolutely.
don't want that way, we'll just use the system. But I think
Exactly.
if we just have more of you guys, and I think, I think we'll be in a better spot. But I mean, I just want to, I'm always that, let's think of the positive however we can.
Yeah.
But that's what I see. I just see so many more people standing up and doing the, just because I say I want X medicine, and you don't agree with it, but let's still have a conversation about why you don't agree with it and the
Right.
reason behind that. But that's what I would like to see. And there are more people doing that, so we just got to get more and more and more.
Yeah, we need to decentralize medicine. Again,
Yes.
like more of the importance of parallel systems cannot be understated. Grassroots organizations and advocacy, like what we're building, and so many others.
Right.
There's hope. There's hope out there, but there should
Yes.
always be options, as you said. If they want to stay, because there are people that will never leave this system. They don't
Right.
have eyes to see and ears to hear, and they'll never leave, and that's okay.
Right.
That's
And that's
okay.
their choice. Right. That's okay.
But those of us who are awake and aware, who understand we should have the option, it's a
Mhm.
shame that, when you get that cancer diagnosis, it's chemo, radiation, surgery. And
Mhm.
that's because, and people, even when they know better, that's all that their insurance will pay for. Nobody
Right.
has an extra 40, 50, 60 grand over here to try
Mhm.
these alternative cancer treatments. A lot of times they're costly. A lot of times they involve going to another country because,
Right.
you can't get that kind of care here in the United States, quite
Mm.
unfortunately. So
And we
people are
talk
kind of
about that
forced.
a lot in this episode. So right there, what you're talking about, we really
I'm
dive
really
into
looking
that.
forward to it. And I want to just talk a little bit kind of just behind the scenes of the docuseries. This has been such an enormous undertaking for you. What has
Mhm.
this been like? What is this journey? What's the hardest part of this journey and bringing these stories to life for you? And that is all the time that we have for today, friends. But remember, we are here on the air 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern with a different nurse host daily. You can also catch the encore at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please be sure to tune in and listen to myself and these courageous nurses. As we walk you through all of these hot topics, we will empower you with information and education. We will advocate and we will stand in the gap for you because we are nurses and this is what we do. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton, and you can find me here every Wednesday morning. I have company every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until next time, be safe, be
It's
well, and God
time and
bless.